All right, I think we still have some people coming in. Seeing a few. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Noah Pittman. I am the Associate Dean of Enrollment for the Honors College. We're very happy to have you here this evening. First off, congratulations to everyone for being named a fellowship finalist. We had an incredibly competitive pool this year, and we're excited to have you interview next Monday. Obviously, this is a very bit different year for us this year. For years, we've been able to bring students to campus, interview them face-to-face. Obviously, that's just not possible right now. But we wanted to do over the next few days is share you a lot of the information that we in the past have shared with parents and students at Fellowship Weekend. Obviously, this evening, we're going to be talking about fellowship finances, the Office of National Competitive Awards, and some of the opportunities that come in those offices. But tomorrow evening, you might have noticed in the emails and on our fellowship interview page, Dr. Jenny Popp and Dr. Chelsea Hodge will be speaking to students about their about study abroad, undergraduate research, and some of the opportunities that are available there. And then Thursday evening, we're really excited. We're going to have a collection of our current fellows come and speak about their experiences as a student in the Honors College. So as we're going along, please mute your mic. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat. I will be managing the chat throughout this evening. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If it's a question that's more appropriate for Ms. Carter or the Office of National Competitive Awards to answer, we'll have time at the end for Q&A. So feel free to type your questions into the chats, whether they relate to what's being discussed or if there's a question that's popped up in your head, we'll be happy to answer that. So I'm really happy to have this evening our first speaker, Ms. Kelly Carter. She is our Fellowship Financial Manager in the Honors College. So if you're able to get a fellowship and you come to the University of Arkansas, you will get to know Kelly very well, especially if you have an Honors College or a Bodenhammer Fellowship. If you receive a Sturgis Fellowship, you'll be working very closely with the Fulbright Honors program staff. A lot of the information that Kelly's sharing today still applies to Sturgis Fellows, but I do want to point out that Kelly is going to be working with Honors College and Bodenhammer Fellows. And then we'll turn it over after Kelly speaks about the Fellowship Award to Dr. Suzanne Mcrae. She is our Dean of Admissions at the University of Arkansas. So you've probably seen emails from her, communications from the admissions office. She is also our Director of the Office of National Competitive Awards, which a lot of our students try to take advantage of while they're here at the University of Arkansas to get great awards that help propel them to what they want to do after college. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Kelly. Kelly, take it away.
Thanks, Noah. Dr. Pittman.
Sorry, Kelly. I forgot. I accidentally.
Did me, didn't you?
Yeah.
Don't mute me, Noah.
Sorry about that. I was trying to mute another student. Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, sorry. So if you'll just go ahead and put that estimated cost slide up. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to do some really basic things tonight, just to give you an idea of what you would be working with as a fellow. Actually, a lot of these have to do with almost anything that any awards that you may have in coming to the university, and some of the information at the end will have applications to wherever you go. But so the estimated cost for this current year is listed here by semester. The fellowship is paid one semester at a time, and so we look at what your approved expenses are for one semester. Then we would subtract any other awards that you have. Say you get the Arkansas Distinguished Governor's Scholarship, or maybe the Arkansas Academic Challenge. I think nowadays ADHE awards both, but in pieces and parts, not to exceed $5,000 a semester, or any other outside scholarships that you might bring to the university when you come. So I just put up the basic cost here on this slide. There's tuition and fees. There's an estimate for room and meals that's based on the HOTS room rate. We ask fellows to live in HOTS Hall. It's the Honors Hall, and so that you'll be amongst other honors students for your study groups and things like that. It's kind of easy access. Everybody's right there. So just a basic cost of attendance here. These total expenses are $10,000 or so a semester. Does not include books and supplies. It doesn't include transportation or personal expenses. And so those are some items that we'll talk more about later. But there's some other costs associated with being in college that are part of the cost of attendance as defined by the federal government for financial aid purposes. So I would encourage you to look at the financial aid office's website and look at cost of attendance to see what those other items are. We can increase the cost of attendance for computers. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And also look at the treasurer's office website to see what current rates of tuition and fees are. So I do expect this to change sometime over the summer. Hopefully not, but if costs go up, then this will be adjusted. So those things will change, but this is just a basic idea of what the cost would be for tuition and fees and room and meals. And next slide, Noah. So basically, you can combine scholarships, and so $18,000 a year for the fellowship and $10,000 for the governors is $28,500 per year. Your cost is not actually likely to be that much unless you are a non-resident student. And so there are some extra fees that non-resident students will have to, that will be charged. And so you might actually exceed the $18,000 that the fellowship offers. Only Arkansas residents can get the ADHE scholarships. So it's just, you want to think about what's the cost, what other awards do I have, and what amount might be left that you might need to pay. And with the fellowship and the distinguished governors, rarely does a fellow have anything left to pay other than some expenses that just aren't covered by the fellowship. Speaking of expenses that can be covered, Noah, if you'll go to the next slide. Obviously, tuition and fees and room and board can be covered, but here are some other things. You can get one computer and some accessories that go with having a computer. Probably want a laptop if you're going to study abroad, because it's easier to take a laptop if you're going to study abroad. Fellows often study abroad multiple times in this pandemic world. It's not, we've had to curtail that for a bit, but we're hoping things are starting to open up this summer. So we're pretty excited about that. After your first year, you're required to live on campus. After your first year, you can live off campus. And so we do have a housing allowance for living in an apartment or maybe living in a Greek house. But someplace that you don't own or you're not buying or that your parents or relatives don't own. You can use your fellowship funds for research travel. So if you're doing your research and you get the opportunity to present a poster about your research or an oral presentation, you can go to professional conferences and we can help you travel to those conferences. We do allow limited parking permits. It's just one parking permit on campus per year, but that's kind of nice to have. And then we can do some test prep materials and test registrations for the GRE if you're going to grad school, the MCAT if you're going to med school, the LSAT if you're going to law school, the PDAT if you're going to dental school, and the FE if you have to take the fundamentals of engineering exam to get your license to be an engineer. So those are just some of the things that that we can approve and within our thing. Most fellows come and talk to me about what it is they're going to do or what they would like to do, and we map out their finances. Just like they might go to an academic advisor and map out their courses that they're going to take across the 4 years, then fellows come and meet with me and we map out their money for 4 years so that you make sure that you get these study abroad and research opportunities into your budget to start with, so that you're making a plan to make it happen and to make sure that you have the funding that you need to get there. So some of the other things that I provide, Noah, if you'll go to the next slide. is I monitor your academic progress. And so at midterm and at the end of every semester, we check the fellows' grades. It's to help with preventing falling down in a hole. So academically speaking. And so any fellow that makes anything other than an A or a B at midterm is asked to meet with an honors college representative. And we talk about strategies that you can use to help increase your grades in any class that might not be an A or a B. Semester grades, cumulative GPAs. Actually, we have anybody come in and see us that has below a 3.5. So it's a 3.5 to stay an active member in the Honors College and to graduate with honors and to compete for Honors College grants that we have for study abroad and research travel, and international internships. It takes a 3.25 to renew the Arkansas Distinguished Governor Scholarship and a 3 point to renew the fellowship. And so we're constantly we want to make sure that you're able to graduate with honors and keep your money the whole time that you're doing all of this. Fellows do have to turn in an annual report every year, a resume, and keep the resume up to date. You're growing and expanding and exploring the world, and you need to have a resume ready all the time for new opportunities that might pop up. And we also ask for 3 photos that represent your year. So you won't have one coming in as a freshman. You'll have to do one after your first year. And then in your senior year, you'll do one at the end of the year. So it'll be 4 annual reports altogether. And taxes. Noah, thank you. So this is the part that applies no matter what school you go to if you get funding that exceeds tuition and fees and required books and supplies. So if you get funding for housing, if you get funding for computers that are not absolutely required for your degree, if you get parking permits, things like that, then those things are taxable, but it's taxable at whatever school you might go to. So you might want to check out some IRS publications about scholarships and fellowships to learn how that's going to affect you, but it's a federal thing. And so it happens at whatever school you might go to. Our treasurer's website, it's treasurernet.uark.edu. They have, if you'll go to the taxes section in the menu, they do have some links at the bottom of that screen that you can check out and kind of go check out some of those things. And every year the Treasurer's Office will release a 1099 to you to show you what they've reported to the IRS from your financial package. So those are the things, the brief things that I wanted to talk about for finances. And so Noah, were there?
Yeah, we haven't had any questions yet. If you have a question about the fellowship award, about the amount, the spending, this is a good time to ask. I'll also at the end put Kelly's contact information here. I know we get a lot of questions from prospective students and parents. If they're offered a fellowship, they have very specific questions and they want to talk to Kelly. Kelly is the source when it comes, especially to the Honors College and Bodenhammer fellowships. If you are offered a fellowship, one thing we will also send in the spring is a copy, and this will be later after offers are made, is a copy of the fellowship contract. You'll actually sign the contracts in the fall, but the copy of the contract, you get to read it, review with your family. That's for you to learn about what you're actually going to be signing when you arrive on campus this fall. Kelly, Marshall Don had a question. What kind of computer are we given?
So you get to choose your computer. You have an allowance of up to $3,000 if you have the financing to support it. If you just have the fellowship, obviously if the cost is $10,000 a semester and the fellowship is $9,000 a semester, there wouldn't be enough. But if you have a combination of other awards, then there's enough there to spend up to $3,000 on a computer, but you get to choose it. If you need help, we have a technical director in the Honors College. He loves to talk tech with people, but also our computer store on campus, they're there to help. And sometimes you may have to talk to your advisor about what it is you think that you might need to do your research. So you may need something special for that. If you're an architecture major, they tell you exactly what kind of computer you need to get.
Kelly, we had another question from Lydia. We're starting to get a lot of questions now. If I'm offered a Bodenham or Honors College fellowship, can I defer it for a year to partake in a State Department study abroad program?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the last part of that.
Can a student defer their fellowship offer?
Noah, that's a better question for you to answer.
Yeah. So we do allow students to defer up to 2 years. If you are in a situation where you plan to defer, whether we've had students defer because of Rotary scholarship programs, specific programs. We've had students because of mission trips they're doing. We do allow deferrals up to 2 years. You do need to contact me so we can get this set up. The big thing to tell you is you cannot enroll at another university after high school graduation if you are deferring. If you enroll in another school, you technically become a transfer applicant. So you have to, you can do other activities, but we need to have a conversation about deferral, some parameters. We can have that conversation after fellowship offers are made. So please contact me at npittman@uark.edu. Owen Collins had a question. With the computer allowance, we would be able to use that to buy computer parts and build our own PC?
You can. I do ask that you send your parts list to our technical director for his review before you buy, to make sure that you're getting the beefiest computer you can for the funds that are available. But again, he loves to talk tech, and it's really fun, I think, to talk to Michael Zachary about what kind of computer parts you're wanting to get. And occasionally he has made some good suggestions on taking care of that, and either getting a bigger this or a different kind of that or whatever. I don't speak tech, but he does. And but yes, you can build your own.
Mm-hmm. Another question, Kelly, is there any penalty for not living in HOTS if you're offered a fellowship?
So there's not a penalty. If you're living somewhere else on campus and it costs more than HOTS, then you'll need to pay the difference. And we do have an exception form that you will need to fill out. And we do ask those students who don't live, those fellows who do not live in HOTS, to, we do require them to attend 3 Honors College sponsored events during the fall and another 3 in the spring of their first year. But it's just so that you're connecting with other honor students in the Honors College. Just, you know, if you were living in HOTS, then you're automatically connecting with other honor students and other honors activities. And so if you're not living in HOTS, then we have that in place to come to those events. And you'll report what events you go to me.
Mm-hmm. And it's really important, if and when you decide to accept your fellowship, you'll get a confirmation message that tells you to contact me if you have alternative living plans to HOTS. I'll get you a copy of that form. There are the stipulations that Kelly outlined that you'll have to agree to. But please contact me if you are offered a fellowship, but you are planning to live in another residence hall. A question that also came up, Kelly, I don't know, I could probably answer this. This is from Savannah. Is there a difference between living in the HOTS hall as a fellowship scholar versus just a sole honor student? There's really not a big difference. We do have floors that are dedicated to fellows in HOTS, but in terms of the events that are offered, the living situations, the type of rooms that are available, there's really no major difference in terms of the different, being a fellow versus being an honor student with another scholarship living in HOTS Honors Hall. Paige asked, is it difficult to get permission to live in housing other than HOTS, or are they lenient as long as you meet the other requirements? You know, it is up to our Dean of the Honors College, Dr. Linda Kuhn. So you do have to have a justification why you plan to not live in HOTS. You have to write the justification, she'll review it. You also have to agree to the stipulations, but we will take a look once you complete the form. I'm not seeing any other questions. We'll wait just.
There was one other thing I wanted to bring up about the fellowship money. If you'll go back to that first page. So again, I was talking about the cost here, just showing the 10,000, and the fact that the distinguished governors plus the fellowship is $2,800. That the what you don't use in like the first fall semester. So say you only need 4,000 of the fellowship in that fall, but there's 9,000 available, that 5,000 rolls over to spring. So then you have 14,000 for spring. But if you still only use 4,000, then you have 10,000 for the summer. And that's how students study abroad in the summer, is because they have those funds rolling over. It's also part of that financial plan that I was talking about, as far as building that and mapping out how you see yourself spending the $72,000 over 4 years.
Kelly, got another question from Allie. What happens if you get offered more scholarships from other aspects of the U of A, like departmental, I guess, music scholarships, things like that, Kelly?
So music scholarships can be used, but again, what happens is every other scholarship applies to your approved expenses first. And then the fellowship fills in, and then what's not used from the fellowship from one semester rolls to the next semester or the next year or whatever. And so you really do have to build a big plan on how you're going to spend all that money by the time you graduate.
All right. Emma had a question. I'm happy to answer this. Will we have access to a more specialized counseling program regardless if we are required to meet because of our grades or not? You do have access, all honor students have access, but especially our fellows, to the Futures Hub. That's a group of advisors in the Honors College that work with students who are applying to graduate school. We have our Director of Career Innovation, Dr. Louise Hancox. We have our Director of Interdisciplinary Learning, Dr. John Treat, our Director of Undergraduate Research and Research Innovation, Dr. Chelsea Hodge. So they are there to help you with your trajectory while you're in college, being able to understand the opportunities that are available to you as a fellow and as an honor student, how to build your resume so that you, whatever your goal is for after college, whether it's graduate school, professional school, going straight into the workforce, you've built a resume that will make you competitive for all those opportunities. Kelly, another question came from Kim Needy. Do the funds that have rolled over expire, or can we claim them at any point in college?
So you can, that's what that financial plan is for. And that's why you're going to want to figure out how you envision yourself spending those funds over the 4 years. But once you get that bachelor's degree, the funds are no longer available. And there is a 4-year limit on it, except for specific programs where the catalog states that they cannot be completed in less than 4 years. Right now, there's only 2. One is the music education, where they have to do student teaching, and it's 9 semesters long. And then architecture, which is a 5-year program.
All right, I'm not seeing any other questions. Thank you so much, Kelly. You can still continue to ask questions in the chat. I'll be answering them throughout, and after our next speaker is done, Dr. Mcrae, we'll also have some time for Q&A as well. So let me go jump ahead to our next part of our presentation. Dr. Suzanne Mcrae is the Vice Provost of Enrollment Services and also the Dean of Admissions here at the University of Arkansas. But along with those really important jobs, she's also our director of the Office of Nationally Competitive Awards, working with students who are applying for a variety of very competitive awards, postgraduate fellowships, awards you can receive while you're in college. She works with a lot of our honor students, especially our fellows, on helping them apply for any number of things. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mcrae. Dr. Mcrae, I know she was having tech issues earlier.
I am here.
All right, take it away, Dr. Mcrae.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Pittman, I appreciate being here. I love working with high achieving students, and I like working with the Honors College too. And I'm going to tell you some ways that we do that as we talk a little bit more. But the Office of Nationally Competitive Awards really doesn't ask you what your scholarship funding is when you come in the door. We work with students all across the campus, honors and non-honors students. I will say that fellows tend to win a lot of scholarships, and so that part is really cool. But we have all of you here who are attending today are you're either going to be a Chancellor Scholar or an Honors College Fellow, or Bodenhammer Sturgis, some sort of fellow or a Chancellor Scholar. And we work a lot with those students. So we have many Chancellor Scholars who go on and win the scholarships that I'm going to talk about with you today. So do know that it doesn't matter what your scholarship funding comes in. What we're really interested in is not what you did in high school, though sometimes applications will ask about high school activity. We're really interested in what have you done in college since you've come to the University of Arkansas. With the Honors College, you have a lot of different ways to engage. And I want to encourage you to actively embrace those because they will help you be competitive throughout your college career. So we could go to the next slide. So we do a lot of things in the Office of Nationally Competitive Awards. There are three of us who we have, and we have a graduate student, and we have other people who help us and faculty who work with us. But the three of us, each of us, we probably have anywhere from 300 to 400 individual student meetings a year. And what we're talking about with students, we talk with students early, and we meet with fellows early in their careers and Chancellor Scholars as well, to talk about things that they are mapping out for their future. What kind of engagement, it doesn't really matter, as long as it's something that you're interested in, become passionate about, and really want to pursue later in your life as well. So we have a lot of, as you can see from the slide, we do a lot of things. One, we're going to put you on a listserv. So listservs may not be the top of your mind. I know you're used to communicating on Instagram. We have an Instagram account too, and Facebook and all of that. But the way we really like to communicate with you is through email. And that's where universities kind of work now. But we'll have you on a listserv of students who are likely to be interested in some of these scholarships. We'll send you out notifications that we're having information sessions. This spring, we're going to be having lots of different scholarship information sessions, very specific to different kinds of awards, and we will invite you to those. You can just read what they're about. We tend to put in the subject line $signs. In other words, this is a scholarship opportunity, and we're talking STEM, or this is a scholarship opportunity, any major, sophomores and juniors. So you can decide, oh, I don't want to, I'm a freshman, maybe I'm not going to attend this now, but I'll put it in my file and come back to it. So we stay in touch. We advise on a variety of things, including internships and summer programs. We also advise students on law school and medical school and graduate school applications. I sit on the pre-med advisory committee, and we do a lot of practice interviews, especially for students who are applying to very competitive medical schools. We just had this week some law school practice interviews, and those are a lot of fun. And we help students relax in the interviews and really know what kinds of questions, not the questions to anticipate, but the kinds of questions that they're likely to get. We also read applications, we give advice, we give grammatical advice, we give structural advice. We tell students what we've learned from the foundations because we are closely connected to the foundations. We attend conferences every year with them. We do specific work with them. There's one foundation called the Truman Foundation, which I'm going to talk with you about in just a minute. And the deputy executive secretary there, and I have just finished a book on the Truman Scholarship called Wild About Harry, Everything You Wanted to Know About the Truman Scholarship. We're very lucky that Madeline Albright wrote the foreword to that book, and that's going to be coming out shortly. So we stay closely in touch with foundations to make sure that we're giving cutting edge advice to our students. So next slide, please. And what does that mean for you? Well, it means that our students, to be at the University of Arkansas is actually a great place to be if you want to win a nationally competitive award. We give a lot of great advice. We have a lot of great students. We're informed. We help you be informed. And really the result of that is that we have a lot of students who win these scholarships. Last year, we had more than $2.4 million won by our students who were competing for these scholarships. Now, most students who are going to grad school or law school anyway, if they're going to have scholarship money, they get it from the school they're applying to. And we help with that as well. But a lot of students also win at this highly competitive national level. And we know, and we want you to understand, the only way that you absolutely cannot win is if you don't apply. And so we encourage application, we seek students out, we get faculty members to seek you out and give us your name so that we can encourage you to apply for scholarships that are going to help you do the things that you want to do. Now, these big time scholarships, what do? They're not an end in themselves. Just like the fellowship that you're applying for right now is not an end in itself. It's an opportunity that will help you do those cool things that you want to do. Learn, study, all the things you do as an undergraduate, engage on campus, engage in the community. It'll help you with that. And then later, when you win some of these scholarships, it will help you do that again as you're starting to launch into your graduate career path and then into your career path. So these are very, very important things for you to do. Our students have been extremely competitive, and I'm going to show you some numbers here in just a minute, and they've gone to graduate school everywhere. So the wonderful thing about you is that you're coming to a university where it will cost you very little. Some of you, it won't cost you anything. And then you're going to go to grad school. We're going to try to make sure that you go to grad school on someone else's money there too. If you're headed to medical school, okay, you're going to be out some money, but at least you won't start being out money until you head off to medical school. And there are ways too to get financial support for medical school, but those are a little bit rare. So every field, whatever you're majoring in, there's a scholarship out there for you. So let's look at some numbers. You can see our students have been extremely competitive. Let me just tell you about a few of these awards. I'm sure you've heard of the Rhodes Scholarship, and that everybody knows, oh, I want to study at Oxford, and I want to apply for the Rhodes. And that's a great scholarship. We have 10. This puts us in the top in the SEC, having had 10 scholars. But of course, Harvard and Yale, they have more, no question about that. But there are lots of other kinds of things that you'll want to apply for where we are really a top institution for those scholarships. For one, the Harry S. Truman Scholarship, which I just mentioned to you. Our students have applied for and been successful applying for the Truman Scholarship. Just in the last 10 years, we've had 9 Truman Scholars. 2 years of that 9, we've had 2 scholars. They give 60 in the country. And here we are really performing extremely well in that world. In the SEC, we're the #1 school for Truman Scholars in the SEC. And that includes some really great schools, Florida, Georgia, Vanderbilt, terrific schools. And we're ahead of the pack by 4 scholars. So we're very proud of that record. And the Truman Scholarship is for those of you apply during your junior year. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute, so I won't go on too much, but it's for those who are interested in public service. So we'll talk just a little bit more in a minute. The Goldwater Scholarship with 57, again, we're at the top of the SEC with that. In both Truman and Goldwater, we're in the top 20 public universities in the country for the number of scholars that our university has produced. Now, that's a tribute to the fellowship program. That's a tribute to the scholarship program. That's a tribute to the faculty who work one-on-one with you. And that's a tribute to the rigor of the academic programs that we have on this campus. So it takes a village. It's not because of our office, but we do feel like we can give you really helpful advice as you move forward in these applications. Fulbright students, Yes, we have a Fulbright College on our campus, but that's not what we're talking about here. This is the National Fulbright Scholarship Program that sends students all over the world to study or conduct research or be a teacher. So you can pick any of those three avenues to be a Fulbright scholar, a Fulbright student scholar, and we've been very successful in helping students with that. Jonathan Langley is the Fulbright Program Advisor, and he's in the Office of Nationally Competitive Awards too. Udall Scholars, I'm a reader for the Udall Scholarship Program. I go to Arizona every year or on Skype, Zoom, Skype, whatever they use now for last year and this year. But I look forward to going back to Arizona where Udall was from and reading for that scholarship program. But if you're interested in a career path in the environment, this is a scholarship for you. Kids interested in STEM, there are just a ton of scholarships out there. So if you think that you want to go to graduate school in a science, engineering, math field, there's a lot of money out there for you. There's a whole alphabet soup, NSF, GRFP, NDSEG, DOE. You don't have to know what those are now, but we sure want you to know what they are very quickly after you arrive on our campus. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now, in the previous slide, it said we had over 1,000 SURF grant recipients. This is not to send somebody to the West Coast to get out on the ocean, and it's not that kind of surf, right? It's a student undergraduate research fellowship that the state provides. Our students have been amazingly successful at winning SURF grants. Now that's a small scholarship, but it's at the state level. So you have Honors College research grants that you have available to you, study abroad grants through the Honors College. And then we really encourage our students, and we work with the Honors College on this application process. We really encourage our students to apply for SURF grants because receiving a grant from the state is really helpful to you as you start to develop that resume that will make you extremely competitive. So we're going to encourage you to apply for a SURF. Most of the students who don't receive the SURF, who are honors students, then win an Honors College research grant. Both of those things are great to put on your resume. And many of the scholarships we're looking at on this slide right here do favor students who've had undergraduate research. If you're going to medical school, UAMS, say you're staying in state, about 65% of the students going to medical school at UAMS have had undergraduate research. I really think the University of Arkansas is the reason that's at 65% because most of the students we send have had undergraduate research. If you're going to go to Johns Hopkins, that's more like 96% of the students attending Johns Hopkins Medical School have had undergraduate research, and we send students there to medical school as well, all over the country, to programs all over the country. So now, depending how your interests align, there are lots of different things that you can apply for. Some you can apply for your sophomore or junior year. So I mentioned Goldwater, Truman, and Udall. These are undergraduate scholarships that you can apply for when you are either a sophomore or a junior. As a sophomore, if you've already had undergraduate research and you're in STEM, you can apply for the Goldwater Scholarship. He was a politician who was also from Arizona. He and Udall sat on opposite sides of the aisle, but were great friends. Both are now dead, and their money spends great no matter which part of the aisle you happen to sit on. But one is, the Goldwater is for STEM, and they award those for students who plan a career in science doing research. So that could be with a company, that could be with a federal agency like NIH or NSF. That could be with a university as a faculty member conducting research on a campus. And so they're very interested. Now, if you're going to medical school, that can be okay if you're pursuing MD, PhD. But if you're really just an MD student, not just, but if your career path is to be MD, then that's not going to be the scholarship for you. But there may be other things we can talk about. like I said before, as a sophomore, you apply for UDOL if you're interested in the environment. UDOL, I'm thinking a lot about right now because they're due today. We're able as a university to nominate 4 students who are on the environmental side of the UDOL scholarship. We can also nominate students who are Native American students who are interested in a tribal policy or health policy. So you don't have to memorize all of this. We just want you to come into our office, and as we talk, we will encourage you to apply for these kinds of things. The Truman you can apply for it as a junior, and you can be any major to apply for the Truman. The Truman really wants somebody who's interested in public service. So we've had a student win who was going to go to medical school. We've had students win who are going to go to law school. We've had students win who are going to go on for a master's in public policy and plan just to spend a couple of years in graduate school. So we've had kids win no matter what their sort of focal point. Really, all they have to want to do is work in the public sector. I mean, in the public sector for a non-governmental organization, for the government. They may want to start their own nonprofit. And we have a student right now who just was selected as a finalist. We can nominate 4, and we've had finalists just almost every year. This year, the student is interested. He's majoring in industrial engineering and political science. So he represents majoring across colleges, which is really interesting. He wants to go on for a Master of Public Policy. We've scheduled practice interviews, 6 practice interviews for him before he actually gets to the real thing. And we've included faculty members from engineering, from the political science department, from history. Noah Pittman has very kindly volunteered for 2 practice interviews. I think he's the only one outside of our office who's going to attend more than one. And so what we do, and we have a very deliberate method in which we approach these interviews. We're very nice in the first couple of interviews, and then we get a little uglier in the middle so that we can, not really ugly, but so we can push them in the middle interviews. And then at the end, we're back to being very, very nice folk and praise the work that the student has been doing. And these students just do a great job. What they all have in common is that they came to campus and they engaged actively. They've gotten, they're part of student government or whatever it is that they care about, they really pursued actively. And sometimes they learn what they care about by getting involved in something and then shifting to something else. That's perfectly okay. But that engagement, if you really want to be successful at the end of the day, that level of engagement's really important. So there's a lot of science stuff too when you come to your senior year, things to apply for, lots and lots of stuff. There's also a lot of scholarships out there for people to apply for if they want to study abroad. Fulbright, I mentioned. There's also a scholarship called the Boren. There's a lot of money out there named for politicians, alive or dead, depending on which scholarship. But anyway, Gilman also, if students who have financial need, the Gilman is a great scholarship and will help you study abroad as well. And then the really super famous scholarships for the senior year to study in the UK include the Rhodes, that's to study at Oxford. Marshall, we've been very successful with students applying for the Marshall Scholarship. That's to study anywhere in the UK. The Gates Cambridge Scholarship is to study at Cambridge, obviously. Mitchell, if you want to head to Ireland. Churchill is at Cambridge as well. And there's another big time scholarship called the Schwarzman, which is to study in China. And it very deliberately imitated the Rhodes and wants people to come to China to help bridge the economic, social, and political, educational gaps that there may exist between our 2 countries. So that's a big time scholarship as well. We had a student win. It's only been around for 4 or 5 years. We had a student win the Schwarzman in its 2nd year. And that student was interested in water issues and how people get drinking water, how clean that water is, how there are political things associated with water. And there is also, status, how human beings, some human beings have more access than others, and what that says about us. And so she's a really interesting student who was a Truman and went on to be a Schwarzman Scholar. Okay, if we can have the next slide. So there are just a lot of different things you can apply for. And you may ask, why should I apply for really competitive awards? So if I apply for the Rhodes, they only give 32 in the country. If I apply for the Marshall, they only give 40 in the country. If I, apply for the Schwarzman, only 30 in the US, and that kind of thing. Yeah, those numbers are pretty small. I get that. Some of the others like NSF and those kinds of things, they have much more opportunity for winning. But the fact of the matter is you win so much by applying that it's a worthwhile proposition whether or not you get that one particular scholarship. For example, we had a student who applied for a Marshall Scholarship. He got an interview. He did not receive the Marshall, but he got a free ride to Harvard, and he got into 2 different labs, which he had his pick of. He got into Stanford and had a full ride to Stanford as well. And he picked Stanford. I think it had something to do about the weather, but off he went, and it was totally supported. So my question to you is that a win? Let's nod our heads yes, because I can't actually hear anything from you. So yeah, that is a total win. And we see that all the time, because when you apply for one of these big time scholarships, some of these are due, especially if you're a senior, these are due early in the fall. So if you're applying for Rhodes, Marshall, Gates, Cambridge, and all of those, basically they have approximately an October 1 deadline. So that means you've gotten your act completely together by October 1. You have letters of recommendation. You have a great killer personal statement. You've had lots of interaction with faculty, and the letters of recommendation that these faculty have written for you, they're not the average letter. They're Rhodes quality letters of recommendation. Well, when you go, or Marshall quality or Gates, whatever it is you've applied for, they know these are big time scholarships. They're going to kick it up. And suddenly you have this 1.5-page, 2-page letter of recommendation that's going to follow you to your grad school applications, your med school applications, your law school applications. So suddenly you have Rhodes quality letters of recommendation following you throughout your career. They aren't going to go to that letter and dumb it down because they think this isn't as competitive award. They're going to send that competitive scholarship with you everywhere. So alternative winning is really a great reason to apply. Winning is also a reason to apply. The University of Arkansas students have won all of these scholarships many times over. So you want to think first and foremost, I want to win, okay? But I understand reality. So I am also happy about alternative winning too. So we win or we alternatively win is the way that we look at that. You get a lot of work with faculty members. We facilitate a lot of that. The Honors College helps you with that. We provide you with interview practice, and we give you strategic sort of approaches to interviewing as well that will not only help you through this application process, but will help you in job interviews. You're not going to unlearn these things just because your scholarship application is completed. And it also helps you. We've had a lot of students who applied for Udall or Goldwater or Truman early in their careers, or for SURF grants, saying, oh, this has helped me think about what it is I want to do and start to develop a career path that's going to help me moving forward. So there's a lot we can help you with. We're eager to talk with you during your freshman year and help you also with that trajectory and mapping out your plan and seeing how, as you develop your plan, how we can fit in it and be a support team for you. Now, let me give you our contact information. I know you want to have time for questions, so I'll move to that. We're on email a lot, so feel free to contact us anytime. When you send an email, we'll set up a time for us to meet. Students who are applying for these big time scholarships, we usually start meeting with 3 months in advance, sometimes 6 months in advance. It depends on what you're applying for, and often meet once a week. Those once a week meetings are not extensive, really. It's just to help you stay on track getting the work you need to get done. So we'll say, have question 7 done for next week. Have question 8 done for next week. How about that resume? Let's take a look at that next week. So we stay in touch, helping move you forward in the application process. So that's it. I'll take questions, or if you have questions for Kelly or anyone else, then I'll just turn this back over to Noah.
All right, I'm not seeing any questions at the moment in the chat. We'll wait just a second to see if you have a question for Dr. Mcrae. If you had a question you meant to ask Kelly, but didn't get a chance to, we'll wait for a minute or two before we end this meeting. I'm not seeing anything. I'm looking forward, Coleman's in my class. I'm looking forward to interviewing him for the Truman Scholarship this week. Stacy Lopez asks, what is the most important thing we could start doing to prepare for these awards, Dr. Mcrae?
Well, there are a couple of things. Just come excited to be on the campus, come ready to engage, be open to getting involved, meeting new people, and at the same time doing the schoolwork that's going to be really important for you as you build on these early years. So learning is important. Engagement is equally important.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. Getting to know faculty is really important too when you need those letters down the road, for sure.
Absolutely.
Ali asked, and I'll answer this question, how many people are interviewing for fellowships this year? We are interviewing about 180 students for fellowships. We'll be interviewing 9 students for Bodenhamer Fellowships, 9 students for Sturgis Fellowships, and 162 students for Honors College Fellowships. You might have noticed on the websites, the interviews are obviously next Monday. We will let students know their fellowship status by March 22nd at the latest. And those will be done over email, just like when you were invited to fellowship interviews. Dawn asked a question for Dr. Mcrae. Do you recommend visiting the Office of National Competitive Awards as freshmen, if only to search for opportunities?
Absolutely. Visit us anytime. Right now we're having all of our meetings over Zoom or a thing we call Teams, but we are happy to meet with you and start to map out things. I've met with students while they're still in high school to talk about Goldwater or Udall, things like that. So absolutely. I also have a class. It's an honors college class called Catapult, which I teach every semester. It's an 8-week course. In fact, our last class is coming up tomorrow, but I have freshmen in that class as well. So feel free to take Catapult if you want an in-depth look at writing personal statements and interviewing, or just come by our office and talk about what kinds of things you might want to be engaged in. What are some of the things you're most interested in? What do you see as a kind of career path? And we'll happily chat. We know that what a career path is as a freshman may not be the same one that it is when you're a junior. And we go with the flow on that too.
Mm-hmm. Another question, how many students get selected for fellowships? That does vary from year to year. And I see someone else asked again about being interviewed, how many students are being interviewed for fellowships. Like I said earlier, about 180 students are interviewing for fellowships. We actually offer a few more fellowships than we expect to enroll, because we do know our finalists have a lot of great choices for college. Not everyone's going to, in the end, come to the University of Arkansas. So we haven't set a certain number yet. We will be making those notifications by March 22nd. Jacob Fuller asks, does the Office of National Competitive Awards help students apply for graduate scholarships at the U of A? Do any scholarships exist for pursuing an MBA at the U of A?
Yes, we're a very lucky place to be, because the Walton family has been very, very good to us. And so not only did they give $200 million to the Honors College, but they've also given a lot of money to the Walton College of Business. And so to attend for the MBA program at the U of A, there are doctoral fellowships and there are distinguished graduate fellowships, and the MBA program is eligible for those.
Mm-hmm. Stephen Lynch asked, and I think this is for Dr. McCrae, do any of the scholarships involve sending entire transcripts of college courses?
All of them.
Yes.
Everything we do involves a transcript. I uploaded today transcripts for all of the UDOL scholars who we've nominated, and I do that for every scholarship. Or if I don't do it, the student sends it in. So yes, they do require that. Some of them don't require that. So for example, if you're a transfer student and you've gone to 3 or 4 schools, some require that you send from all schools. Some don't, as long as it's on the U of A transcript and they've been transferred and they are on the U of A transcript. Then some schools like Goldwater, they just want the one transcript. They don't require the others. So, but transcripts for grad school, med school, law school, MBA programs, they're all going to require transcripts of your undergraduate career, and all these scholarships will require transcripts.
All right, I'm not seeing any other questions, and we're just about to our time limit of 7 p.m. So let's give a nice muted silent clap to Ms. Carter and Dr. McCrae for taking time out of their evening to speak to our finalists this evening. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. We will be posting probably by tomorrow afternoon a recording of this on our YouTube channel. We'll also post it on the fellowship interview page. So if you didn't catch some information, you came in late, or just want to watch this again, we'll have it posted on our YouTube channel. But thank you again. Just a reminder, tomorrow evening, as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Jenny Popp and Dr. Chelsea Hodge will be speaking to finalists about undergraduate research and study abroad opportunities. So getting a little more specific about some of the things we discussed this evening. And Thursday evening, we'll have a group of current fellows participate in a student panel where we'll ask them a few questions, but we really want our finalists to ask them questions about their experiences at the University of Arkansas. So thank you again, everyone. Hope you have a great evening, and we will see you soon. Bye.